The events in this case take place primarily in Brunswick, an inner-city suburb of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. These are the final haunting images of 29-year-old Jill Meagher as she walked home in the early hours of September 22, 2012. Fate placed her in the path of danger. Her husband, Tom, waited nervously for her to return, but as the minutes turned into hours, hope started to fade. Little did anyone know that a predator was roaming the streets of Brunswick, Victoria that night, and Jill was his target. Who was the man seen on CCTV talking to Jill? Could he hold the answers to what happened to her? Hello and welcome back to 3am Whisper. Today we take a look at the disturbing case of Jill Meagher. Today, we revisit the case set in Brunswick, an inner suburb of Melbourne known for its lively art, music, and nightlife. Each year in late February, the area hosts the Sydney Road Street Party as a lead-up to the Brunswick Music Festival, drawing visitors from all over. Brunswick is home to many Italian and Greek immigrants, adding to its rich cultural mix. With the University of Melbourne nearby, students bring energy and life to the area, moving between bars and pubs as the night goes on. It was on a night like this that Jill Meagher disappeared. Jill was born on October 30, 1982, to Edith and George McKeon. She and her younger brother Michael spent much of their early years in Drogheda, Ireland. Her family described her as bubbly, full of life, and someone who loved to make people laugh. The family moved to Perth, Australia, when Jill's father got a new job. While in Perth, Jill attended Bull Creek Primary School and Rossmoyne High School. In 1996, Jill's family returned to Ireland, where she finished high school at Drogheda Grammar School. She later enrolled in community college. In 2004, while her parents returned to Perth, Jill chose to stay in Ireland. She graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Dublin. During her time working in student bars, she met Tom Marr, and they quickly connected. They started dating seriously and married in July 2008. Jill was known as a small woman with a big personality. She and Tom later moved to Melbourne, Australia, to be close to her parents. With a love for drama and the arts, Jill began working at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation as a unit coordinator and sometimes helped with on-air work at 774 ABC Melbourne radio station. Jill and Tom decided to wait before starting a family so they could enjoy their time together. It turned out to be a wise choice, as Jill was busy balancing her job, married life, and supporting her parents, especially after her father's recent stroke. She spent time with her parents in late 2012 before coming back to Tom and her job in early September. Back at work, a colleague invited Jill out for a night of celebration for a birthday. It was normal for Jill to join her friends for an evening out, but on this particular night, tragedy was waiting. On Friday night, September 21, 2012, Brunswick was lively with students and people looking to relax after a long week. Jill and some of her co-workers from the broadcasting company met for drinks at the Brunswick Green Bar Hotel on Sydney Road. It was a popular spot, busy with people coming and going. After a few drinks, Jill and her friends moved to another popular bar called Bar Etiquette, also on Sydney Road. Around 1:30 a.m. on Saturday, September 22, 2012, Jill and her friends decided it was time to go home. A male coworker offered to walk her home, but Jill assured him she would be fine, explaining that her apartment was only a 5-minute walk from the bar. Even though she had been drinking, Jill was still clear-headed and promised her friends she'd be safe. She knew the area well and had done this walk before. While walking home to her husband Tom, she called her brother Michael to talk about their father. This was the last time anyone heard from Jill. Tom Marr woke up suddenly around 4 a.m. and noticed that Jill was not in bed. This was unusual for her. If she planned to be out late, she would always call him. He checked his phone, but there were no calls. He called out for her and searched the apartment, thinking she might be in another room, but she was nowhere to be found. Tom then tried calling her phone, but she didn't answer. He reached out to her friends, who told him Jill had left the bar around 1:30 a.m. Worried, Tom quickly got dressed and went out to look for Jill himself. He walked up and down the streets between the bar and their apartment, checking every corner and alleyway, but found no sign of her. Tom then called the police to report her missing. Meanwhile, Jill's friends used Twitter to share pictures of her and information about where she was last seen. The police soon arrived at Tom and Jill's apartment. They questioned Tom and collected evidence to rule him out as a suspect. This was standard police procedure, as the spouse is often the first suspect in cases like this. Tom was quickly ruled out as a suspect. He seemed just as shocked and worried as Jill's coworkers who had last seen her. Also, there was no sign of a struggle in the apartment. While one group of police officers spoke to Jill's friends and coworkers, another group searched the streets and alleyways for any clues about where she might be. Within hours of Jill going missing, a Facebook page was created to gather tips and information. Flyers with her photo were handed out and posted around the area where she was last seen. On Monday, September 24, 2012, 2 days after Jill disappeared, police found her purse in an alleyway on Hope Street in Brunswick, which was close to her and Tom's apartment. However, police were puzzled by how the purse was found so easily. It had not been there when they searched the area earlier. That same day, the homicide department took over the case. The change in the investigation team did not stop Tom from hoping Jill would come back safely. He spoke to local media, pleading for her safe return. While Tom did his best to keep hope alive, and the police searched for more clues near where Jill's purse was found, a new piece of evidence surfaced. A worker from the Duchess Boutique on Sydney Road found CCTV footage from the night Jill disappeared. On Tuesday, September 25, 2012, the police reviewed the footage. Although the video was grainy, it showed a man in a blue hoodie pacing outside the shop between 1:30 a.m. and 1:42 a.m. About 4 minutes before Jill appeared on camera, the man walked by. The footage showed that he spoke with Jill for a short time. At one point, Jill even turned to show him her phone before walking away. The man in the blue hoodie followed Jill until they were out of view. Jill Meagher's disappearance gained national attention in Australia. Police broadcast the CCTV footage on major news networks, asking the public to help identify the man in the blue hoodie. Investigators searched Jill and Tom's apartment for more evidence and took their car for forensic testing. They also checked the cell phone records of both. Tom's phone stayed in Brunswick, but Jill's phone had pinged off several towers along the Tullamarine Freeway, indicating she was taken by car. Forensics on their car found no evidence linking Tom to Jill's disappearance, ruling him out as a suspect. The police turned to the public for help, receiving hundreds of tips. The Facebook page gathered over 100,000 interactions, and Twitter was abuzz with people trying to help. A major breakthrough came when a tip led them to 41-year-old Adrian Ernest Bailey. This was a significant turn in the case. Adrian Bailey had a dark history and was well known in the criminal world. Adrian Ernest Bailey, born Adrian Ernest Edwards on July 14, 1971, was the oldest of 5 siblings raised in Melbourne, Australia. At 18, he married his high school girlfriend after she became pregnant in 1989. Adrian's criminal behavior started early. In June 1990, he was accused of assaulting his sister's 16-year-old friend. 2 months later, he tried to assault a 17-year-old girl walking home from a bus stop. He poked her in the eyes, tore at her clothes, and ran away. In December 1990, he kidnapped a 16-year-old hitchhiker and drove her to a remote area intending to assault her, but she escaped with the help of nearby strangers. Adrian was arrested in January 1991 and pled guilty in June, serving a minimum 3-year sentence. After being released in April 1993, Adrian trained as a pastry chef and rejoined his wife, but they separated in 1995. He lost custody of his 2 children and started a new relationship, having 2 more children. From 1995 to 2000, he stayed out of trouble and changed his name to Adrian Bailey. In 2002, Adrian was charged for attacking 5 sex workers in St. Kilda between 2000 and 2001. He received an 11-year prison sentence with an 8-year non-parole period. He was released on parole in March 2010, but later separated from his second wife. In 2011, he started a new relationship and moved to Coburg, Melbourne. In February 2012, Adrian assaulted a 20-year-old man, breaking his jaw. He was sentenced to 3 months, but appealed and was released pending a hearing. Adrian worked as a laborer when police brought him in for questioning. Investigators obtained a search warrant for his home on Bud Street. Although he was their main suspect, they needed solid evidence. They also found more CCTV footage showing Adrian's movements during the weekend Jill disappeared. A second warrant allowed police to check Adrian's cell phone records, revealing crucial information. For 6 hours, Adrian denied being involved with Jill's disappearance, staying confident. But the evidence against him grew. Investigators found Jill's SIM card in his home. When shown this, Adrian denied knowing how it got there. They showed him CCTV footage from the days following Jill's disappearance, but he claimed it was unrelated. The strongest evidence was cell phone data. It showed both Adrian's and Jill's phones taking the same route toward Gisborne, though only Adrian's phone returned to Melbourne. A toll road camera also captured his car and license plate that night. Confronted with this, Adrian broke down and confessed to abducting and killing Jill. On the evening of September 27, 2012, Adrian led police to a shallow grave on Black Hill Road where Jill's body was found. The coroner confirmed that she had been assaulted and strangled. At 2 a.m. on September 28, 2012, Adrian was formally charged with Jill's murder in a brief hearing. Reports later revealed that Adrian had attempted suicide that same night to avoid facing trial. Based on Adrian's confession and CCTV footage, investigators pieced together what happened on the night of September 22, 2012. Jill Meagher left her colleagues around 1:30 a.m. to walk home. Adrian, who had been walking around after a fight with his girlfriend, saw Jill on Sydney Road and approached her just after 1:30 a.m. Jill, talking on her phone, didn't notice him at first. He followed her until she ended the call and spoke to her. They exchanged small talk as they walked, turning onto Hope Street, just a few blocks from Jill's apartment. When Adrian made advances, Jill rejected him. He then tried to grab and kiss her. Surprised and defensive, Jill pulled away and slapped him. Already upset from his earlier argument, Adrian overpowered Jill and dragged her into an alley. He assaulted her and tried to silence her screams by covering her mouth. When she screamed again and tried to call the police, Adrian grabbed her by the throat and strangled her. Realizing what he had done, Adrian returned home to Coburg, got a shovel, and went back to the alley around 4:20 a.m. before anyone began searching for her. He drove her body 40 minutes to Gisborne, South Australia, and buried her in a shallow grave on Black Hill Road. Over the next 2 days, Adrian tried to erase evidence by washing his car and throwing Jill's bag in the alley where he had attacked her. The discovery of Jill Meagher's body deeply impacted the community. Flags at the ABC South Bank studios were lowered to half-mast. A statement was released honoring Jill and the impact she had on those around her. The police were praised for their quick work in solving the case. The Facebook page created to find Jill received over 600 messages of sympathy, and her story was shared on millions of Twitter threads. Flower tributes appeared in places linked to Jill, but police had to remove them as they disrupted traffic. Messages of condolence were written in chalk at the spot where Jill was found. A candlelight vigil was held on September 28, 2012 at Brunswick Baptist Church, and a memorial service took place in Drogheda, Ireland, where Jill had grown up. On September 30th, a march organized by photographer Philip Werner brought 30,000 people to Sydney Road to honor Jill and highlight the issue of violence against women. Jill's mother, Edith McKeon, thanked the community for their support. Jill's funeral was held privately at Faulkner Memorial Park in Melbourne on October 4, 2012. The cemetery was closed to the public that day to allow the family to say goodbye in peace. Jill was cremated, and her ashes were taken to Perth by her parents. A memorial mass was held in Drogheda the next day. Later, a march on October 20, 2012, and a memorial on October 21st included a tree dedication and a poem Jill wrote, Dedication to a Friend. Before Adrian Bailey faced court, public anger was strong. News and social media focused on the failure of the justice system to prevent a known violent offender from being free. Public comments on Jill's case showed hostility toward Bailey, and police tried unsuccessfully to have these pages taken down to protect the fairness of the trial. Premier Ted Bellew called for legal reforms to avoid jury bias. On June 11, 2013, during Adrian's pre-sentencing trial, impact statements were shared by Jill's family. Judge Jeffrey Nettle allowed Adrian's criminal past to be reported, furthering public outrage. This led to changes in Victoria's parole laws, with stricter rules and fines. Premier Dennis Napthine admitted that the justice system had failed Jill and noted these reforms aimed to prevent similar tragedies. Adrian Bailey initially planned to fight the charges, but pleaded guilty to Jill's assault and murder on April 5, 2013. On June 19, 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison with a 35-year non-parole period. He appealed the sentence in September 2013, arguing it was too long, but the appeal was rejected within 10 minutes. Bailey later faced additional trials for past assaults on other victims. Between 2014 and 2015, he was found guilty in 3 separate cases involving 2 sex workers and a tourist. He was given 18 more years, extending his non-parole period to 43 years. In June 2016, an appeal slightly reduced this, making him eligible for parole at age 83 in 2055. Due to safety concerns, Bailey was separated from the general prison population after being attacked by another inmate in 2017. The inquest into Jill's death was dropped, bringing some relief to her family. They expressed gratitude for closure and focused on remembering Jill's life. Tom Marr, Jill's husband, returned to his hometown in Ireland in August 2013. He visited Australia briefly in 2014 to support the White Ribbon campaign against violence toward women, which has since ended. Tom became an advocate for change, speaking about the impact of losing Jill and the need for stronger protections. One woman, named Juliet, shared her own experience with Bailey's violence, supporting efforts to keep victims' voices heard. On what would have been their 10th wedding anniversary, Tom posted a tribute, reflecting on the pain of losing Jill, but thanking her for teaching him deep love and inspiring others. Jill Meagher's case is a powerful reminder of how vulnerable people can be and exposes the flaws in systems meant to protect them. What are your thoughts on Jill's case? Was it a failure of the justice system or a tragic, unavoidable fate? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Stay safe.